and you can't afford to do that if you want to stay out here until the window opens for a pit stop, and that is going to be a very tough call if indeed it does dry out as to when, because the undercut, the advantage, if you get the slick timing right, could be 5 to 8 seconds on the very first lap out on a decent set of slicks. If you're brave enough to give it a try.
And that's the sort of call you've got to leave to the driver. You've got to respect the driver's opinion and not contradict him as the team, or will the team have a say in that?
I think until a few drivers have done that and they've got some information, it's the early drivers who make that call. It's a driver decision. Only the driver can tell the team when they feel ready for slicks.
Look at that, they only just got everybody off the grid by the time the safety car led the drivers around to complete the first lap of this race. The race is underway. So Daniel Ricciardo leads from Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton, and everyone following around in order, and that's the view on board Daniel Ricciardo's Red Bull as he tries to generate some heat into those wet weather tyres and makes his way up towards Massenet Casino Square.
And Daniel Kvyat is dropping down the field with those problems that he's talking about, a car stuck at constant speed after a tremendous qualifying performance.
He's down in 16th place at the moment. You're not allowed to overtake behind the safety car unless the guy in front of you is clearly having problems, and then obviously you can, because you shouldn't be stuck behind him and suffering because of his technical problems. He's still going, Kvyat. He's making his way very slowly indeed. He's just been passed by Jolyon Palmer now and is sinking to the back of the field. I think he's actually coming to the pits. There he is.
Maybe they can stick an umbilical cord into the side of that, reboot it somehow, and he can get back to the pack before he's lapped. Change the steering wheel. There's very much a way of rebooting that.
Retired obviously from this race, Danny Kvyat in 2014. Last year had a much better year, finished 4th here in Monaco. But just looking at the condition of the track, Martin, does that look too wet to go racing at this stage?
No, not now. I can just about, I can understand the safety car start, I guess. Pains me to say that.
You're a racing driver. You want to be out there trying to make up as many places as you could.
Yeah, I think they're big enough boys to handle these conditions. It's only when there's puddles and aquaplaning that you're a passenger in one of these things.
Still,
it's stuck in gear, so he can hit neutral. Ted's down there.
Yeah, it's a mess, and he's already gone a lap down as Kvyat, and it looks like the steering wheel change hasn't worked. They now have to get the battery in and reboot the whole thing as time is dripping away. Oh, that's good. We have a sound of a Ferrari engine, and Kvyat lights his rear tyres. I think he might get held at the end of the pit lane here. Is the red light on?
Well, definitely the pack are coming through. We'll see if we can just hold on to this shot. No, see if he makes his way onto the track. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he is held there for a bit. And as you say, Ted, he is a lap down already. What I can tell, yes, he is being held at the end of the pit lane. Danny Kvyat now making his way onto the track.
Yeah, pit lane will be closed until the snake has gone through, basically, and they've passed the first safety car line. A lot of them, they'll then release him. So only by a few seconds, otherwise he could be on the back of this lot. So that's put him well out of position then, Danny Kvyat.
So we're behind the safety car, and we will be behind that safety car, with the drivers keeping the same order until the race director, Charlie Whiting, decides that the track is dry enough to go racing properly. And what he normally needs is a bit of advice from the drivers on this.
I'm still stuck in the constant speed, guys. I'm still stuck in the constant speed. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
I hate to say it on a day like today, but it doesn't rain. It just pours for Danny Kvyat at the moment. Can't catch a break, that man, sadly. Hopefully, fingers crossed, they can try and fix things for him. The drivers behind Ricciardo at this stage, Martin, will they be getting onto the team radio saying, oh, this is dry enough, come on, let's get racing again? Because it's probably in their best interest to try and make up a few places to take advantage of the conditions if they can.
Surprised the Red Bull boys are not on their own. I think they've got a better car in these conditions, but it looks raceable to me now. It's let's go racing now. But I think it depends what machine you're in as to how eager you are and where you are on the grid. Patrick Dempsey looks on, and you know, control works both ways, and if you can't see, you have to slow down. But I don't think visibility is an issue. Aquaplaning is not an issue.
It's obviously spray, but your average lap speed here is so much lower than anywhere else. You're not throwing up quite as much spray.
Yeah, I mean on a clear, warm day on slick tyres, it's only 100 miles an hour.
And not even 50 miles an hour, I wouldn't have thought, for Danny Kvyat, limping around to back.
It's like the pit lane limiter stuck on, isn't it? Which is probably why they changed the steering wheel. So I think they will have to switch it off, stick a laptop in the side of it and try and reboot it that way.
There were partygoers limping home faster than Danny Kvyat round to back last night. It really is a horrible sight for him, I'm afraid.
I just happens to me all the time.
He just sounds so desperately sad, doesn't he, at the moment? Walked past him a couple of days ago, Martin. His head was down. He just did not look a very chirpy, cheerful man at the moment.
He's had quite a solid weekend, actually, until now. He's just gone... Did he go straight through his gang?
It looked like he did. Can't quite see the Toro Rosso garage now. Oh, I can. Just out the corner of our commentary box. They're all going back in again.
It looked like they were ready for him, didn't they? Unless it just suddenly cleared. In which case he'll probably get pit lane speeding. Penalty later on, but...
Just to add to his woes.
Right, let's go racing.
Daniel Ricciardo, Nico Rosberg, Lewis Hamilton. Ricciardo never been on pole before. Rosberg, who's on the front row for his 12th consecutive race and who won from second on the grid at this time last year. Lewis Hamilton won the Monaco Grand Prix from third on the grid in 2008. Behind him, Sebastian Vettel, who's never won from outside the top three on the grid. And then Nico Hülkenberg in his 100th Grand Prix, becoming the fourth driver in Formula One history to reach 100 Grand Prix without getting a podium finish. And surely he won't have had many better chances in his career. Think of Brazil, where he was leading the race a few years ago, to go and get that podium finish. Joins Adrian Sutil, obviously a former Force India driver, Pierluigi Martini and Philippe Alliot as the four drivers with 100 race starts, yet to finish on the podium. That looks a bit better for Danny Kvyat now, so maybe going through the pit lane, the problem was cured. And the computer finally stopped saying no and started to say yes, but he is a few laps down.
And he's not time limited here, so he can catch the pack up. He'll have a bit of knowledge when he gets there, but he'll also have a lot of traffic.
So look, there's a line appearing already, Martin. We're behind the safety car. The safety car is leading this race. We are into the race and we're on lap 5, but we're just waiting to really get going here. And I'd love to know what the drivers are saying on the radio to the teams, because obviously they could radio in and give a bit of advice, but that doesn't look too bad, does it?
The sprinters, as soon as they get going. There's no standing water now. You're starting to see, as you say, a racing line developing here and there.
The track is ready though, we can start racing, come on.
Now, well done, Kevin Magnussen. Finally, we have a driver raising their voice above the parapet to say, let's go racing again. And I wouldn't have thought he's the only one out there that wants to say that. Max Verstappen, who ahead of Felipe Nasser, the two drivers that started from the pit lane. And we've seen before Michael Schumacher, when he got relegated to the back for his infringement and his penalty for crashing deliberately at Rascasse in 2006. What an afternoon he had as he scythed his way through the field to come home and finish in the points. It can be done here, and they've obviously set the car up, the Red Bull car, for as much possibility to overtake as they possibly can. Ted, down to you.
Crofty's shadows are being cast on the ground. Ooh, what does that mean? The sun is coming through. So I don't think it'll be too much longer under the safety car.
Yeah, it could be at 20 seconds faster than the safety car pace coming through, obviously with space in front of him. And 1:47. with his time just exploring.
Lewis Hamilton there was a few seconds faster than his teammate Nico Rosberg. He had to check himself a little bit at Massenet, and he was just going that little touch faster, and his line was taking him ever closer to the barriers.
We're waiting.
The spray is better now. Let's get going.
And I just got the feeling from the way that his car was behaving there that he was a man that really fancied getting this race underway again. No confirmation from race control that the safety car will be coming in at the end of this lap. We're on lap 6 of 78, and obviously the longer we spend behind the safety car, Martin, the more we're kind of pushing towards a timed race. There's a 2-hour time limit to get this race run within a 4-hour window. I think we could be looking at a time race this afternoon.
Yeah, it's heading that way, isn't it? I think even just a plain wet race with a safety car is at some point is going to be a time out of 2 hours. I don't know what we're waiting for. Christmas, or what are we waiting for now?
I think they finished lunch at race control.
Yeah, no, there's obviously some information that maybe the safety car is sending back that is making them think the track is not ready.
The trouble is the Formula 1 cars, as you proved, Martin, in your feature with Kimi Raikkonen today, the road car might be struggling to go at this pace in these sort of conditions. The Formula 1 car, you just feather touches on the throttle.
Yeah, when I drove that Merc last year in the pouring rain at Silverstone, I was very impressed at how the tyres cleared the standing water actually, and you won't get much wetter than we were that day. It'll come in this lap, won't it? It will come in this lap.
I've got my fingers crossed on both hands. This one, I've crossed my toes as well, but the blue suede shoes have gone a bit hard after getting a bit soaked earlier.
Yeah, so Kvyat caught the back of the pack, lapping 23 seconds a lap faster. So he's unfortunately a lap down. Obviously Verstappen and Nasser, although the race starts immediately, they don't lose anything when they start from the pit lane. And the safety car is in this lap,
which is great news. We want to see the safety car in. Interestingly, Danny Kvyat not allowed to unlap himself behind the safety car, which often happens after an accident. But he will start the racing proper a lap down and right at the back of the pack.
I think given the conditions and that he's got to pass 21 other cars, that would comply with the regulations, that they don't always have to let them lap themselves.
Right, so now the mindset has to alter, and it's for Daniel Ricciardo to get a good start. And look, he's already starting to back the pack up a little bit coming into the chicane.
What they've got to remember is it's an offset safety car line, in that you can be over. Remember Michael Schumacher here in the last lap. You can be overtaken before Anthony Noakes' corner if you're awake and ready for it, and they'll all be warned about it. You can overtake before the last corner, because that is when the race officially restarts.
So you want to get a good jump, and look how Nico Rosberg is sticking very close behind Daniel Ricciardo. Lewis Hamilton is starting to catch him up a little bit now as Ricciardo just starts to ease down on the throttle. He's going away. The lights are green, and you can see the line across the track out of Rascasse now. Green flag's being waved. We can go racing properly here in Monaco this afternoon, and you can see already just how slippy and greasy it is as they get the throttle down, the back end squirming away for Daniel Ricciardo, but no real problems as into Sandoval he goes. Ricciardo leads this race from Rosberg and Hamilton and Vettel, and then Hulkenberg coming next. After Hulkenberg, bit of a gap there to Carlos Sainz, and already into the pit comes Kevin Magnussen.
Intermediate tyres. Sorry, Crofty.
No worries, Martin. It's a gamble that's been taken by Renault. They think it's dry enough for intermediates. Get out there and see what he can do.
Got nothing to lose out the back there. You've got to be so careful not to brake on a white line. Otherwise, you'd block a front wheel, and you just have the most pathetic of in those circumstances. So, difficult conditions here from all the brake. Oh, look at that. Hamilton just hangs on to it.
And that's Jolyon Palmer, is it? It's definitely a Renault.
Safety car or virtual safety car.
Into the barriers it is. Jolyon Palmer. We've dispensed with the safety car. The virtual safety car will now bring this race to a halt. And down at Saint-Devote, Jolyon Palmer crashes out of his first Monaco Grand Prix, bringing to an end what has been a pretty wretched weekend for the British driver.
That's a tough one for Jolyon there. The team will not be impressed with that. Early doors.
Well, that's the start-finish straight, Martin. So has he lost it going down the straight and then gone straight on into the barriers at Sainte Devote?
Yeah, because that's the pit lane exit line, you're right. And so it looks like he's had a whack fairly early on in the pit banana straight that it is. And the accident's finished off down in the barriers at the far end of the Sainte Devote runoff.
And the marshals, very rapid, these marshals here in Monaco. Let's have a little look here. Watch through the spray for a yellow Renault arriving at a rate of knots there.
Yeah, he's already had an incident long before he got to that point.
Jensen Button now comes into
gone
the
wrong
pits.
down there. Oh look, yeah, it just dropped it under accelerator with the throttle on. It's just on the zebra crossing. It was a zebra crossing. Lit up the rear tyres, spat him straight into the barrier.
Absolutely nothing he could have done about it.
Yeah, there's no amount of reaction. Looks like he's...
Ted, down to you.
Got an unsafe release, a slam dunk. Felipe Nasr went out in the path of Carlos Sainz. That's going to be a penalty. We'll get a replay in a second.
Thank you very much, Ted. Nasr diving into the pits. And Jensen Button, as I mentioned, also coming into the pits as well. Button going on to the intermediates. Felipe Nasr going on to the intermediates as well. And I suppose behind the virtual safety car, well, they've pretty much got nothing to lose by putting the intermediates on now.
Interesting though, isn't it? Interesting where that might all end up. I mean, it takes 24 seconds to pit in the rain. It takes longer in the rain because they're slower into the pit lane. They can't approach the pit box anything like the same speed. So all in all, it's about 4 seconds longer than in the drive with some hot slicks on. So under virtual safety car, they're all contained to the same speed. That's why Ricciardo's advantage is pretty much maintained. The clever bit is getting on it immediately that the virtual safety car, and they do get a warning, not very long, not much of a warning, immediately that the virtual safety car is released, you've got to be back on the throttle pedal, and they'll have a shock in a minute because the whole pack is coming along.
They've done a very good job to get as much debris wiped away as they possibly can, but what they need is one of those big street cleaners that they use to mop up after the parties on the Friday and Saturday nights. I still think there's a few bits of debris down there that will be on the racing line.
And even if you want to put intermediates on now and take advantage of this, you can't. You're not allowed to pit under the safety car. Yeah, that got a proper swapper on, didn't it? I'm pretty sure it's now over this zebra crossing. And that would have been in the wall before he even realised he was having an accident. It's amazing how much speed it still had. I mean, it was a one wheel on his wagon by then, but...
Virtual safety car's ending, and Lewis Hamilton right behind Nico Rosberg. Hamilton had gone a little bit skew-if round the Lowe's hairpin before. Now we can go racing again. Lights are green. This time around, no problems for Hamilton. Ricciardo's built himself a nice little buffer there between himself and Nico Rosberg, who's in second place. The top 11, as you can all see, all on the extreme wet weather tyres, but Button, Magnussen and Nasr in 18th, 19th and 20th running intermediates, and we'll see how their times compare. Now we can go racing properly. The track will dry, but it will still be very greasy indeed. Hamilton maybe looking for a way to tiptoe his way through on the entry into the back. Rosberg seems to be really struggling for grip, Martin.
Yeah, Hamilton definitely a lot more confident right now, and he might be on the radio anytime soon and say, if he sees the Red Bull heading off down the road, say, I can go faster than this, let me through.
Behind Hamilton comes Sebastian Vettel, then Nico Hülkenberg, Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez. Fernando Alonso up to 8th, Valtteri Bottas up to 9th, and Esteban Gutierrez running in 10th at the moment, ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. On the approach now, down towards Sainte Devote. Rosberg seems to be picking up his pace a little bit. Hamilton, too many car lengths behind to try and make a move. And 3.3 seconds the gap between Daniel Ricciardo and Nico Rosberg, first and second.
Look at that, the speed he wants to try and take around there. It's off the racing line where you tend to find more grip. Their karting experience, they know that. But they've got to be so careful they don't do a Julian Palmer and just light the rear tyres up while they're busy focusing on each other. Look at that from Button on that previous lap. What a great lap time that was from Jenson Button.
A 1:43.6 from Jenson Button as opposed to a 1:44.6 from Daniel Ricciardo, but with Felipe Nasser going even quicker on the intermediate.
Yeah, so Button then, the first man in the pack at the moment, down in 18th on the intermediate tyres. And that is going to be a wake-up call for all those up front. Who is going to blink first?
Down towards the chicane we come. Flashing past the camera. Oh, there's Romain Grosjean. And that is on the exit of the Lowe's hairpin. And that's Kimi Raikkonen as well. Raikkonen losing his front wing. He's got to be very, very careful there indeed. Grosjean gets going. Doesn't look to have as much damage, but, well, Raikkonen, that is a very precarious front wing.
Right, the racer is going to hate this, but he's dragging into the tunnel slowly. A great big front wing. Terrifying, really.
Keeping off the racing line, and he's trying to limp home into the pits, doing all sorts of damage to the underside of that Ferrari car. As Ricciardo sets a new fastest lap of the race, a 1:38.1 now, 5 seconds faster, 5 seconds clearer, I should say, Nico Rosberg.
That's not doing as much damage as you'd think, but he's going straight off. He's retiring. He probably can't see what's, unless he's been told by, maybe race control have told the team, get him off the racetrack.
Right, now look at Felipe Massa coming into the back here. There goes Kimi into the barriers.
Just had an accident all by himself.
And there's Felipe Massa getting involved a bit and hits Kimi.
What's that, Ferrari?
What is Kimi doing?
He hit the wall.
You broke me.
He had no steering control, I think, Romain, I'm afraid. So Kimi's gone and had his own accident. Massa nearly joined the party. Kimi then struggling with he can't turn the steering wheel, just closes, or can't turn the steering wheel enough anyway, closes Grosjean off. There it is. That's the silly lockup I was talking about earlier on, where you can just go and have a pedestrian accident. Or pedestrian speed, I should say.
Yeah, but Massa, I think, has got damage to his front wing as well, as Ericsson and Haryanto come in for intermediate tyres. And out in front, still Ricciardo leads from Rosberg and Hamilton and Vettel and Hülkenberg, and they are literally tiptoeing their way around some very greasy parts of this smooth asphalt surface here in Monaco. It's treacherous conditions out there.
Yeah, Ricciardo well over 5 seconds ahead now.
Well, Hamilton's getting frustrated.
Yeah,
he keeps looking for a gap to try and get past his teammate, and he keeps finding the door slammed shut.
I think the team will be on to Rosberg to say, move along down the road a bit.
Well, this is really helping Daniel Ricciardo, the fact that Rosberg just can't get the pace at the moment, and they're going to look at that incident with Kimi Raikkonen after the race, are the stewards. Ted.
Red Bull out in the pit lane, and just the interesting thing with Mercedes is that, of course, Crofty, it's the first car call for the intermediate tyres. So Rosberg has the priority if he wants it, and when he wants to take the intermediate tyres, and Lewis has just got to wait. So Red Bull throwing the dice with Max Verstappen onto the inters there.
Yep, I can see it out of our commentary box window. He's just pitted and comes out and joins the race in 17th.
I mean, let's walk a mile in their shoes. Rosberg's got a 43-point lead to defend here. He does not want to be doing a Kimi Raikkonen or a Julian Palmer and rattling it down the barriers, and he's driving accordingly.
Jenson Button has caught up with Pascal Wehrlein now. He's down in 13th place and starting now to get held up a little bit by the Manor driver. There's your race leader, Daniel Ricciardo. There is the gap that he has built up in the last few laps over Nico Rosberg. Lewis Hamilton just sat behind him, and Sebastian Vettel playing a very patient waiting game as well. Who blinks first out in front though and decides, Martin, it's time to come onto the intermediate tyres? You look at Button's time, a 1:42.4, but he's now getting held up a little bit. Fiat is on the intermediate tyres, and he's starting to lap in the 1:39. Out in front, Ricciardo did a 1:37.5.
Very hard to read though, David, because it's a question of who's got, as Vettel pits for inters, who's got clear air in front of them.
Yeah, Sebastian Vettel blinks first. Ferrari make the change, intermediate tyres for Sebastian Vettel, and there's a double yellow flag just being waved in the mid part of the track, cleared up very quickly. Vettel comes out into the racetrack behind the Williams of Felipe Massa. And so he rejoins the race in 11th. He's got a nice gap now to go at his own pace, to get heat into those tyres, and to try and well, make up a little bit of deficit and force the hand of the two Mercedes. Surely one of them's got to react. And
yeah, Ricciardo's 10 seconds ahead now, and Rosberg is a bit like a cork in a bottle there at the moment, driving the pace he's comfortable with. It's a long afternoon to go yet. Now the debris there, presumably that's off Kimi's front wing, is it?
Yeah, and that is Felipe Nasser running straight over the debris on the track. That's not going to do his front left tyre any good at all. It's an interesting point you make. Rosberg just driving, you know, his race, keeping Lewis Hamilton right behind him, but exactly where he wants him to be.
Yeah, and Hülkenberg in 4th place there, having now been released effectively by Vettel pitting, is quick as. Oh, look at that one. Well held, sir.
Carlos Sainz with the first big save of this race. Still Jenson Button stuck behind Pascal Wehrlein, so they're not going to get any good data from him. The man is quick in a straight line, and Button can't find a way past him.
Carlos Sainz grew up watching his dad rallying, didn't he? And he certainly learned something from him.
Didn't he just? Fernando Alonso now pits for McLaren. Alonso was running up in 7th place. And there you can see, coming in, it's even just stopping. You have to be so careful in these sort of conditions to make sure you stop dead on your marks in the pit lane. Alonso will rejoin this race. He should come out right behind Sebastian Vettel, who is currently in 10th place. So Alonso now rejoins in 11th. Won't be too unhappy about that, as we are on board now with Daniel Ricciardo, making his way carefully round Portier and into the tunnel, where the entrance is wet, but it gets drier and drier as through that tunnel you go. Down to 10.
It's easy to say, Crofty, that this is Mercedes, and namely Nico Rosberg, just handing the Grand Prix to Red Bull and Daniel Ricciardo. But what they're trying to do, and Ricciardo's doing this as well, is just get the stint length right. They know that if everything goes well, they could do just another 5 laps. That would be good. And then if it stayed wet, then they'd get another, say, 20 laps on the inters, Martin, or what would they do, 25 maybe? And then they could put one more set of inters to the end of the race. Or that would be dried out enough to put slicks on at that time. It's just, they're just thinking a few laps ahead of this, even though it might look like Mercedes are handing the race to Red Bull.
I'm just looking at the times, Martin. I don't think you're suffering time-wise, lap time-wise, by being on the wet weather tyres at this moment in time.
I agree with you. When you just look at a 35.9 for Ricciardo, new fastest lap, and he's driving, isn't he? So carefully when we went on board with him. So slowly. He must think, come on, guys, where are you? He's over 11 seconds ahead now, and he's finding the grip, but you know, I don't know if they're trying to get the wets to go a bit further. I don't actually think so, Ted, because they're too slow with it. They're 2.5 seconds off Ricciardo's pace. He's romping away at the front.
Yeah, he's got the clear track, and I think as the track, and Lewis Hamilton has got past Nico Rosberg. While we watch Valtteri Bottas in the pits, I can tell you that there you are, Hamilton ahead of Rosberg. He's been threatening to do that for about the last 8 laps. Rosberg's been holding him up quite clearly, and it was just after Saint-Devote on the way up towards Beau Rivage and Massenet that Hamilton managed to get past.
Either Rosberg's made a mistake, or I think probably more likely he's been told, let Lewis go.
Well, here we go. We're on board with Hamilton.
Synchronised swimming.
That's a tough call to make.
They had to make that call. They had to make that call. He's not got the confidence or the pace on the brake pedal. I don't know what it is, but they're handing the race to Red Bull. If they didn't do that, he might come back later on. But that was a no-brainer team decision.
I mean, we've seen that before with Daniel Ricciardo and Danny Kvyat swapping back places last year after Ricciardo was released to attack Kimi Räikkönen. But have they left it too late? We shall see. As Hamilton now sets the fastest middle sector time that we've seen in the race so far. Alonso on the intermediate tyres is going quick through the first sector, quickest of all, and Ricciardo just put in another fastest lap of the race. So a 1:35.7 for him. Let's see if Hamilton can match that as he crosses the line. A 1:35.1 for Hamilton, so 0.6 of a second faster. Trouble is, by now he's got 13.5 seconds to try and make up on the race leader.
Long way to go. What he must do is keep it out of the barriers. But he's certainly got some, you know, the thing is, you get more tyre temperature, more brake temperature, more confidence, go faster, you get more of everything, and off you go up the road, which is exactly what he's doing. But you've just got to be so careful of that white paint.
There they try and paint out some of the slippy bits, but there's way too much to do through the course of the weekend. We're looking here at Felipe Massa ahead of Sebastian Vettel, and that's why.
In a month of Sundays, that was never going to stop, so he'll have to pull over now and let Massa back through, which he does.
Yeah, and flying through there like Kimi Räikkönen did into the back of Adrian Sutil a few years ago. And there's Nico Hülkenberg almost hitting Sebastian Vettel. Had to take real evasive action there. Fernando Alonso watching with keen interest from behind in 9th place. Head down to you.
Strategically now, surely the smart thing for Red Bull and Ricciardo to do is pit for Inters so that they're quicker than a charging Hamilton. They've got to do it now, though, haven't they?
Well, I just wonder.
Keep it out the wall.
I just wonder, the pace on the wet weather tyres is still quite good as Felipe Massa this time goes straight on at the chicane. Sebastian Vettel behind him, then comes Hülkenberg, and then Alonso just in the distance. I'm looking at Carlos Sainz, who's now all over the back of Nico Rosberg as well. Rosberg really struggling out there. Another fastest lap of the race for Hamilton. The gap 13 seconds between race leader Daniel Ricciardo and former race winner here in Monaco, Lewis Hamilton.
Fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mentally, in terms of where they're all at in their season, their careers, and the conditions are, it's like being on a skating rink. It's unbelievable. You can look at you can see the fuel there in the foreground. You can just see how slippery. When we go on board with the car, you can just see they're so pedestrian. It looks like 30, 40 miles an hour, and that's the grip you're feeling in the car, the feedback you're getting from the surface of the tyre, through your seat, through your feet on the pedals, through your hands particularly on the steering wheel, the torque, the load coming through the steering wheel, and then through your eyes as well. You go into hypersensitive mode as you try to just read the grip, the ever-changing grip that's underneath you.
Ted.
Not pitting Ricciardo yet because he doesn't have the gap to Rosberg, does he, Crofty? You need a comfortable 20 seconds.
Yeah, probably 22.
Exactly, plus a couple just in case anything goes wrong. And if he's pitted now, he'd be behind Rosberg, and Rosberg can control Ricciardo. So that's why he's staying out.
Yeah, I also think, for interest's sake, I'd like to see Sebastian Vettel ahead of Felipe Massa at the moment. They're still, Ricciardo and Hamilton on those wet weather tyres are still lapping. As Jenson Button, you can see, is now past Pascal Wehrlein and up into 11th place. They're still lapping comfortably quicker than those on the wet weather tyres behind them, and those on the intermediate tyres, I should say as well. We're on board now with Sebastian Vettel, the only Ferrari in this race at the moment. Kimi Räikkönen losing his front wing at the Lowe's hairpin. Jolyon Palmer for Renault crashing out on this zebra crossing here. He lost the back end and then slid across the track and straight into the barriers at Saint-Devote. And Danny Kvyat, after problems with his constant speed limiter, lapped down already into this race. And we look now at Max Verstappen on Felipe Massa. Verstappen up into 15th after starting from the pit lane.
I think the story is here, there's no grip on the surface as JB makes his way through, and he's busy looking right to see where his rival is before he turns in, but there's so little grip, I think it doesn't matter which tyre you're on. That's the story right now. There will come a point as it starts to dry and the surface of the wet tyre cries enough, but they're clearly not feeling that at the moment. Hamilton's still edging back towards Ricciardo, who will have understood he's got a different rival on his hands now.
Verstappen right up to the rear wing of Valtteri Bottas now. Bottas running in 13th place down the inside. Looks like the Toro Rosso there trying to have a little go, and we can see Verstappen getting past Kevin Magnussen a few moments ago. That's how the young Dutchman is slicing his way through the field at the moment.
So quickest wet runners, late 134s.
Oh, look, here goes Valtteri Bottas on the manner of Pascal Wehrlein. He almost made it stick. Now, did he take the place? Did he make the move cleanly before he went off the track? Should he have to hand that one back again? Verstappen is now going to cause a bit of confusion then, because he's just got straight past the manner into Tabac.
Yeah, now Bottas is in trouble. He's going to have to let Verstappen go as well as the manner. If the manner gets passed by a couple more people, he'll go even further behind. I believe he completed that move by carrying too much speed into the corner and using the runoff area. Hamilton Still, they've got the lead down to 12.6 seconds now. And there's Bottas releasing him. That's exactly like I said, he's had to release Verstappen. And he needs to keep some speed up down there, otherwise a Renault passed him as well.
Yeah, Kevin Magnussen is now loitering with an awful lot of intent behind. And he just about slams the door, Bottas, but he got a really good exit there, Magnussen. And as they make their way up Beau Rivage, he'll be challenging Valtteri Bottas for what is 14th place on the track.
So I started to say the fastest wet runners are first and second, unsurprisingly, on a 130, late 134s. The fastest intermediates are in the 35. That's Gutierrez and Button.
And we have a set of intermediate tyres going on to one of the Mercedes cars. And it's not going to be Lewis Hamilton, it's going to be Nico Rosberg who will get the first choice on strategy. He started ahead of his teammate, and maybe that is the quid pro quo for letting Hamilton pass and releasing him to go after Ricciardo. Rosberg still gets first call on strategy, and away he goes. But
I'd be surprised if he got first call on that, Crofty, whether Lewis is not calling for them at the moment.
Yeah.
Whether they're covering off other people that Rosberg has been in trouble with recently in terms of pace. But Hamilton, as the leading of the two cars, surely had first call on that.
Well, he should, but if he was let go by the team, if the team said, look, Nico, let him go past, maybe.
Yeah.
That was the arrangement that went on there. We'll find out after the race. We'll head down to Toto Wolff to have a chat about that one. And it's a race that's being led by Daniel Ricciardo from Lewis Hamilton. Now in third place, Carlos Sainz. And that is a Toro Rosso of Danny Kvyat and a Renault of Kevin Magnussen at Rascasse. Careful where you go, Kevin. Reversing on the track there with other cars coming towards you.
That looked as if who was on the outside?
Magnussen.
His right front is pointing in the wrong direction.
Well, Sainz is the next driver to come up towards Rascasse after the Mercedes and Hamilton.
It won't turn from there, son. It won't go forwards from there. Yeah, you're going to have to go a lot further back than that. But he doesn't want to go backwards because the right front tyre is pointing in the wrong direction.
Right, well, let's have a little look and see what happened. Magnussen's already clipped the barrier there. Fiat's making the challenge. Magnussen, oh yeah, they touch, don't they, going into the swimming pool?
So Kvyat's going to come up the inside of Magnussen then, with some anger, I'd imagine.
Chris. What the do you do?
So Kvyat's going to come up the inside of him. Oh, and there wasn't a gap, there was half a gap. And that is why his front wheels look like Bambi just after he was born.
Now I think that's the steward's going to be having a little look there as out of the pit come Perez and Sainz. And Nico Rosberg keeps ahead of Sergio Perez after his pit there, and a whole gaggle of cars scream their way into Massenet, trying to sort out the order. Perez behind Rosberg, so third, fourth, fifth and sixth there.
Kvyat, of course, lost that lap early on with a problem. And given his escapades back in Sochi, he did not need to be having clumsy moments like that. In terms of the love he's going to receive at Red Bull.
He's going to be receiving good cuddles from Helmut Marko on that one.
Ricciardo and Hamilton have got to come in for they've got track position behind them, which they have.
Yeah.
Ricciardo, it's time to come in because Verstappen is now in the 32s.
Yeah, the intermediate tyres now starting to work an awful lot better. They have a buffer. Well, Ricciardo has a buffer of about 40 seconds or so over those running behind.
He can't afford to let Hamilton have a couple of laps on him, I would have said, in terms of Hamilton pitting that enters before him by a couple of laps.
It's tight. If Hamilton was to come in at the end of this lap, it would be quite tight, I think, to get back out ahead of Nico Rosberg. They might, but the trouble is, if they leave it now, then Rosberg's going to start to go an awful lot faster, and that gap's just going to disappear.
Hamilton's got 35 seconds over Rosberg, 34 over Perez. I think he'll be okay, David.
Right.
But so the leading two to have the luxury, I believe, of being able to come in. And the sun is shining. This place does dry out very quickly indeed. I wonder if they're thinking, can we stretch this to slick tyres? Can we save a pit stop, hang on to these wets, and go straight to point C effectively?
That's a very good shout. And the line is drying to a casino square, but I mean, how many laps before? At the bottom of the slopes, the braking zones, into Mirabeau, into Portier, into the Nouvelle Chicane, how long before they start to dry out? It could take a while.
You're a long way from slicks at the moment. When you put those on, you'll be taking a bite out of taking a bite out of your seat, but they're not going to get to slicks.
Ricciardo's in, and Hamilton will be coming in as well because the Mercedes crew are waiting for him. Change of angle on the front wing, nicely orchestrated pit stop, and out goes Daniel Ricciardo, and he will retain the lead of this Monaco Grand Prix. And Hamilton has stayed out, so he won't retain the lead of the race at all. Hamilton now takes the lead, but he hasn't changed from those wet weather tyres. Did Mercedes do a little bit of a double bluff there? Did they force Red Bull into it? And do they think Hamilton can maybe stay out and then switch on to slicks soon? Oh, anything's possible, Ted.
I don't know, maybe they did, but actually from what I was looking down the pit lane, it looked to me like Red Bull came out first and then Mercedes reacted, but it just made sense for Mercedes to do the opposite of what Red Bull did, just to try and flip the performance and see what happens. It looks too wet still for slicks, Crofty. Just to keep an eye on Verstappen. He's taken Button now. He's absolutely flying, isn't he, Verstappen? I've been watching his lap times. He's taken Button now for 10th. Great driving from Max. From the pit lane up into the points, and we're not even at half race distance. We're on lap 24 out of 78 here at Monaco this afternoon. Well, we're on lap 24 out of what could be a 2-hour race. We've got 1 hour and 17 minutes still to run. It's Lewis Hamilton that leads the race, but behind him, everyone down to Pascal Wehrlein. Wehrlein running in 13th has made their pit stop. His gap over Daniel Ricciardo as Hamilton now enters Rascasse is but 3 corners advantage. This weather stayed out once again, so can he keep the lap times low enough as we watch Verstappen on Jenson Button coming at a rate of knots, and Button did well, I think, just to stay out of the way on that one. And he keep the lap times, well, he's gone less than a tenth of a second slower than Ricciardo on that last lap.
That's where Verstappen's got such a lovely touch on the brake pedal. We saw it, didn't we, when he was busy passing people back in China. It's so slow, but I bet he didn't feel it behind the wheel. He's braking there twice the distance you normally would. And I wonder, oh, he's got the right front lock, it's all right, calm down. I wonder, other than the tunnel, if he actually makes full throttle anywhere around the lap. Hardly.
You don't normally make full throttle for much of this lap anyway. Your distance at full throttle around the 2 miles is only 34% in the bone dry conditions.
Yeah, so as he goes over the top of the crest there, he's getting on his left foot on the brake pedal. Your feet are like stirrups on these. The right is go and left is stop, and Ted has got news.
I've come out to the back of the pit lane overlooking the start-finish line. You can probably tell it's quite noisy here. Track's bone dry. It's bone dry on the, I know in the corners it's wetter, but it's completely bone dry. I'm looking at it with my own eyes on the start-finish line. I think Hamilton
is staying out for slicks.
It's a good idea. Why not? Hamilton has to gamble, both in championship terms and the way that Rosberg, who, by the way, had brake problems, that's what the Mercedes team were telling us. That was the reason why he was going so slow. I'm not sure how that figures out, but that's what they're telling us. The only way to rescue this situation, having given the advantage to Red Bull, is to stay out for slicks.
Well, you can see there Daniel Ricciardo in another fastest lap, catching Lewis Hamilton by a matter of nearly 3 seconds on that last lap. But well, when do you go to slicks? Could you do it now? Does it need another 2 laps?
Well, there comes some tyres, but he's and they're green, they're intermediates. Hamilton's kind of halfway house here, isn't he? He's got to react to Ricciardo now, or he's got to hang on to them till he dare put some slicks on him. That is a very brave move indeed. He's got 29 seconds to Rosberg, and he's losing over a second a lap. So he's got 2 or 3 more laps of this before he has to cover his teammate off for good measure. So at the moment, Hamilton's pace is not quick enough. Does he think he can get slick?
Meanwhile, Sergio Perez ahead of Sebastian Vettel now in 4th place, the Force India driver, having a very solid race indeed. His teammate Nico Hulkenberg is currently running 6th. This is a very good showing from Force India today. Sebastian Vettel, the car in between. Sainz, Alonso, Gutierrez and Verstappen complete the top 10. Jensen Button now about 3.5 seconds outside of the points from McLaren.
Ricciardo will only be about 3 seconds behind him at the end of this lap. Hamilton, that is.
Yeah, that's Verstappen on Gutierrez towards the tunnel. I wonder if Verstappen is lining up a move here, Martin. I wonder if he can, under braking, have a little attack at Esteban Gutierrez. He's just a bit too far behind, but look at the dry line that is appearing on the racing line into that chicane. 2.5 seconds the gap between Hamilton and Ricciardo. He's halved the deficit once again on that previous lap. Rosberg 24 seconds behind Ricciardo, but lapping quicker than his teammate Lewis Hamilton.
Ooh, come back. I wonder if he might have a little go at the inside there. No DRS. DRS has now been enabled, actually. DRS enabled, so down this pit straight he can open the rear wing, but he's not close enough at the moment. What should Lewis Hamilton do?
Well, for the championship leader, he's going to come under attack now that that DRS has been enabled. Sergio Perez is getting within a second of him. Sebastian Vettel has DRS on Perez as well. I think Rosberg is still struggling a bit with the cars that are around him. Whether he's still got those brake problems, I don't know. But he's going to come under attack for that final podium place at this time of asking.
I'd be amazed if Hamilton's got enough grip in the braking zones to defend this man. He'll have so much more confidence and grip. So Hamilton is now pretty much surely putting himself, unless he goes, he's going to be mid-concept if he's not going to be pits now. He's now putting himself, I think, firmly into the territory of, okay, that'll be fun for now, but I'll be on slicks soon. But of course, nothing to stop Ricciardo coming in for slicks either.
Well, absolutely. And performing the undercut. They're Mercedes keeping Red Bull thinking, Red Bull keeping Mercedes thinking here.
Hamilton's best chance now is if he can somehow keep Ricciardo away from him in the braking zones.
Through into Casino Square they come, past the Hotel de Paris, the casino straight ahead. They'll swiftly leave that behind and wind their way downhill, where in all honesty, if you've got a slippy enough pair of shoes, just walking on this pavement is bad enough here in Monte Carlo. Driving a Formula 1 car must be even worse, but look how bone dry the track is now. Through this section, on the way down to Portier.
I reckon you could throw a set of slicks on it now. How wet is what they've dragged into the tunnel? Looks all right, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Looks all right. Look at Ricciardo's speed out of there. What's he going to do with it?
He's just sitting back behind Hamilton at the moment.
So Hamilton, if he can keep him behind 5 or 6 laps, that'll be enough to play into his hands.
Now we have the manner of Pascal Wehrlein, Valtteri Bottas behind him, and Valtteri Bottas getting a tap on the side pods from Marcus Ericsson, who, if you remember, finished 11th here a couple of years ago for Caterham. Had a real storming race for Caterham on that particular afternoon. They're staying out, the race leader and the man in second.
Ericsson stayed behind Bottas, if you wondered how that all ended up as they headed up towards the final turn. And Ted, what news?
It just didn't dry out fast enough. Just been discussing with Paul di Resta, makes a very good point that Red Bull can just cover whatever Mercedes do, can't they? As you've already said, Martin, they could, or he could just stay out another lap, could Ricciardo, or nice warm hot intermediate, and jump Hamilton if Hamilton does pit for slicks.
Yep.
But just to remind everyone, you don't have to do any of these changing of compounds anymore. Once they do go to slicks, they can go to the end of the race on that stage.
And interestingly, on that point, Ted, Hamilton's pace now is pretty much matching Rosberg and Perez on their fresh intermediates, which is reassuring for the team.
But the thing for Hamilton is what he has done by staying on the wet. He's made up that difference, that time difference that he lost out in the early laps, while Rosberg was having problems with his brakes, was holding up his teammate. Well, now that gap obviously has disappeared because Hamilton's ahead of Ricardo, so it was a decision worth taking because he's made up the best part of 15 seconds.
Absolutely right, and got track position.
Track position in Monaco is so vital. Esteban Gutierrez doing a sterling job, setting a new fastest lap of the race. He's running in at 9th place at the moment. His teammate Romain Grosjean down in 17th after that tangle with Kimi Raikkonen, and Raikkonen one of 2 drivers out of this race. Jolyon Palmer the other to have an early afternoon.
Hamilton on 2 personal bests so far on this lap. I think it tells us, oh look at that, trying to get away from him in the tunnel.
Max Verstappen just getting a bit overeager on the throttle. He chases Esteban Gutierrez.
Been behind him a while now, hasn't he?
He's finding that Ferrari engine.
The red limiter there.
Just goes, kicks off a little bit of spray. Gutierrez there through the swimming pool chicane we ride.
Max's least favourite corner.
I'm sure smiles to himself every time he manages to go past without any troubles. Just a little skittish, the Haas, as Gutierrez gets back down on the throttle again out of Raskas and into Anthony Noge. DRS obviously for Max Verstappen, enabling him to close up by Sander Bot, but not enough to make the pass.
It's working nicely for Hamilton at the moment. Ricciardo didn't arrive and sail past him. He settled in behind him. Hamilton's picked his pace up a little bit. Does Danny Rick want to risk a lunge? Not on lap 30, he doesn't.
All Red Bull thinking maybe about the undercut.
And this Hamilton is still well over a pit stop ahead of third place Rosberg. So he's not got anything to lose much at the moment, has he?
It's like a world heavyweight title boxing bout where the two protagonists are just jabbing and just keeping each other at arm's length before somebody goes for the big knockout blow.
Slicks.
Ultra soft tyres going on to be used for the first time in a race by Sauber's Marcus Ericsson, and it's really wet at the exit of that pit there, so they're going to be a little bit slippy when he comes out onto the track for real.
Lewis starting to look for the wetter parts of the track, climbing up through Massenet, wherever he can cool those tyres a little bit as they come up to lap Arianto. Perez is going to pit for slicks as well.
Force India racing out, and it's a real last-minute call at Force India, as Kevin Magnussen, I think, is going to come in at Renault as well, and pitting Sergio Perez. Did they put the soft compound tyre that went on? I was just trying to see from our commentary box. He gets down onto the stretch still, says he's on inters, to be honest.
Look at that, Lewis got a little bit out of shape in the tunnel as Arianto positively leaps out of the way. Or did he just outbrake himself? No, he got out of the way. And Lewis beginning to struggle now against Daniel in terms of sheer grip.
Computer's updated. It is soft compound tyres going on for both Jenson Button and for Sergio Perez.
They can get to the end on those.
They can get to the end of the... That's definitely their thinking on that one. Perez now 11th, Button down in 12th. Is Lewis pitting? The Mercedes crew are waiting. There he goes after leading the race following Daniel Ricciardo's pit stop. Into the pits now comes Lewis Hamilton, and it is ultra soft tyres going on. Now, do Mercedes think they can get those ultra soft tyres to the end of the race? If they can, that's 46 laps on them, and that's a real tough ask.
They do think that these fire up a little bit quicker than the super softs. There's not a whole lot between them, apart from the colour, between the two tyres. They do think these will be... The pit lane we know is very, very wet still. And Rosberg does the same then.
So ultra soft tyres going on for Rosberg, and Mercedes trying to produce the undercut here on Daniel Ricciardo. This is going to be a big lap for Daniel Ricciardo, as now Max Verstappen comes in as well. Everyone's coming into the pit stand.
Sebastian Vettel, I believe, has jumped Nico Rosberg in that. Very cheeky move by Ferrari.
Yes, he has, Ted.
Yep.
Well spotted. So a cheeky move by Ferrari, with Mercedes not so much double stacking, but only having 27 seconds or so to get one tyre change done, and then some new tyres out again. And there is Rosberg. Vettel's ahead of him.
And that's Verstappen, how much time he's made up there, and he's not that far behind Rosberg now.
As we watch Max Verstappen, when he was on the intermediate tyres, launching himself over the curb.
And that's where, of course, he crashed.
Not on this occasion. Coming into the pits,
Ricciardo.
Daniel Ricciardo, the race leader. Lewis Hamilton making his way into the swimming pool chicane. Now they haven't got the tyres ready. The tyres aren't ready. Ricciardo is sat there waiting. Did he make the call? Did the team make the call? Whoever made the call, the tyres weren't ready. Super soft tyres going on. Hamilton now makes his way around Anthony Noge, the final corner. Ricciardo put in a really decent lap, but is it going to be enough to come out of the pits and lead this Grand Prix? I rather get the feeling that it's going to be tight one. Here comes the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton. Ricciardo on the inside. Hamilton takes the lead, but Ricciardo, of course, has that inside line into Sandoval. Hamilton now leads after a pit stop that saw Daniel Ricciardo sat stranded waiting for his tyres, and Mercedes, after the second round of pit stops for Red Bull and the first change for Hamilton, lead this Monaco Grand Prix.
Ricciardo's tyres, I'm pretty sure, will go to the end. Will Hamilton's. He's got the ultra softs, Ricciardo the super softs.
But the soft tyre for Sergio Perez now setting a new fastest lap of the race with a 1:29.2. This is Hamilton locking up, going into the swimming pool chicane, and obviously pushing hard on those slicks.
Kept him in the lead eventually, didn't it? That little moment. Wow. I bet they've had to get the bleeper machine out for Daniel Ricciardo's radio as he left the pits.
It's not often you see a driver sat stranded waiting for the tyres to arrive. And now, if he's going to win this Grand Prix, it's either going to be down to another strategy decision, or he's going to have to try and overtake Hamilton on the track.
My first impression is that Ricciardo looks much happier on these slicks initially than Hamilton does. Let's see how that plays out. We've got waved yellows out there.
And there is Kevin Magnussen, and into the barrier once again goes the Renault, and this time he has completely lost his front wing.
I don't know how many front wings Renault bought here this weekend, but they must be getting very low on them.
A little trip to the carbon fibre shop on the way home, and this is what happened. Down the hill, under braking, flat spot of the tyre, locked up, and nowhere to go.
At that point, he'd have been better just going down the hill.
Sergio Perez absolutely flying on those soft compound tyres. I wonder if Force India, the soft compound switching on quite well here, I wonder if Force India have made a really good decision to go onto those soft compound tyres, and that's the way that the others should have gone as well. But Perez is only, I say only, 15 seconds behind Daniel Ricciardo at the moment, but his last lap, a 1:26.7, Ricciardo's was a 1:33.9. That advantage could disappear in 3 laps. Here goes Ricciardo on Hamilton. Hamilton covers him off into the chicane, saw him coming from a long way back, had to take action.
They are in traffic, of course, but Ricciardo definitely more confident in this phase of the race. Hamilton turning in very early to back, nowhere near the barriers on the outside, looking very cautious indeed.
Well, they've been struggling, haven't they, Mercedes, Martin, to switch the tyres on, the front tyres on, to generate the heat, to get the grip, and that's been one of their problems throughout this weekend. Now, Hamilton's problem is he's got back markers that are holding him up.
And he'll get DRS here as well.
There he goes. And here goes Daniel Ricciardo. Hamilton is wise to it once again, makes the move early enough to stop Ricciardo coming at him. This is going to be a patient game for Daniel Ricciardo to try and find a way past here.
Well, we haven't made half distance yet. What a race.
Sebastian Vettel now flying as well on the soft compound tyre in 4th place. Fernando Alonso up to 5th ahead of Nico Rosberg. After that round of pit stops, Hulkenberg is now down to 7th ahead of Sainz, Verstappen and Button. That's the top 10.
If Hamilton can't find some pace and get through this traffic, there's going to be quite a traffic jam behind him soon. Obviously, traffic has been holding them up too, but Perez, Vettel, Alonso coming at him at a vast rate of knots.
It's just get the feeling, if you're on the soft compound tyre at the moment, you are smiling to yourself when you're being told the lap times that you're doing. Oh no, and there's Max Verstappen, and it's at Massenet, and he is out. It's a second crash of the weekend.
Crashed.
Virtual safety car as Max Verstappen goes into the barriers at Massenet after crashing in qualifying. His Monaco Grand Prix, and for the second year in a row his Monaco Grand Prix ends up against the barrier.
He spent some team money this weekend, hasn't he? He's locked a brake over the blind crest of Massenet. And the trouble is then, you can see for yourselves, you go onto a piece of track with half the grip when you're already in trouble.
Now there's obviously a crane down there, you can see it on the left-hand side. Dr. Helmut Marko can see it quite clearly as well on the monitors, I'm sure. So we might not need a safety car proper here. I just wonder if he's okay. Max Verstappen has passed him now. Goes his teammate Daniel Ricciardo, and Verstappen still sat in the car. Nasty bang. Quite a horrible angle into the barriers there. As we watch on board, locked up Verstappen, and then just nowhere to go. In fact, didn't he actually dink against that very same barrier in practice, Max Verstappen, and managed to carry on with no damage to his Red Bull? Certainly damage there today. Rio Haryanto has pitted under the virtual safety car, just to let you know, from 13th. But the race is effectively neutralised. Verstappen is now out of the car, which is great. See him walking away from that. The debris will be swept up, and we'll get going again. So the gaps theoretically all stay the same.
We saw Magnussen in the garage. Did they run out of front wings? The second time in his F1 career is actually both runners out. But it's the second time in Magnussen's career he's retired. Down there.
So just to give anyone who's interested in what happened to Nico Rosberg, why he currently finds himself in 6th. So he lost the place to Vettel because they both pitted at the same time, and Mercedes had to hold Rosberg in the box for some other cars to come past, and that gave Vettel the chance to sneak out in front of him. So that was just a bit lucky, and he's lost the places to Alonso and to Perez because they stopped before him and effectively undercut him.
And a big thumbs up.
That explains, Ted, thanks for that, because that explains why. Are we racing again?
Yes, we are. The
Yeah,
green light is definitely on. Look, are we racing? Ricciardo can't wait to get racing there. Martin Haryanto pitted ahead of his teammate Pascal Bell at the moment. It's all Ricciardo trying to have a go into Portier. Got on the throttle early, just didn't get the grip there. Almost went into the barriers. Now through the tunnel, still trying to find a way to keep that car in a straight line and avoid it sliding around. Is he close enough to have a go into the chicane? No. As Hamilton just goes straight onto the chicane, hasn't got the grip, but gets a really bad exit. And now Daniel Ricciardo wants to have a go into the back, and he's waving his hand there saying he's chopped me off, he's not giving me the space.
And he'd be correct. He'd be correct there. Lewis out of track position.
But was...
It's racing, Sky Racing, but he was far enough up to earn some space there.
Well, was a significant portion of the car alongside Lewis Hamilton?
I believe, as Lewis had been off the track, the Ricciardo was entitled to all the space there to have a go, and he was alongside enough. Yeah, as long as your front wings, we'll have another look at it. But I can understand why his arm was up in the air, but you know, it's Lewis is not going to go after you, so is he? The Mercedes just will not fire its tyres up, will it?
What was that?
Yeah, let's have another look now, but I'm pretty sure Ricciardo's front wing was alongside his rear tyre.
Yes, it was.
Therefore, keep it calm, Daniel, keep it calm.
Well, was
Fiery head only ever goes sideways and backwards, it doesn't go forwards.
Just looking at that again though, Martin, was there enough space for him to go past? He's obviously not going to be on the racing line. Was there a gap there? And did the gap kind of disappear just because the back end stepped out on the Red Bull?
Well, Lewis was the man, you know, recovering from having gone off the road. But anyway, we'll see we'll see if anything comes up on the screen. Perez then is homing in on this pair, like he's in a different class at the moment.
If you wanted to see, as we say, we're not even at half race distance. If you wanted to be in any car at the moment, I just wonder, Martin, if I offered you the chance to be in that Force India of Sergio Perez on the soft compound tyre, whether you might just want to take that. If you might think that the ultra softs were not the tyre to go on, and that the soft compound tyre very much was.
Yeah. I'm I'm sorry, Cross, if you asked me a question,
Yeah,
I was just looking at some other information here.
I just wonder if you thought that well, he's just lost a couple of seconds, Perez, on that last lap after I'd asked the question, but would you want to be in this car at the moment? Is this the car to keep looking out at as one that could potentially win him?
I think until Hamilton and Ricciardo stop squabbling and we'll see what their true pace is, and we've just seen that.
Okay, mate. Let's get your head together. You're quicker than him. Let's do it.
That's the right radio call. There's Daniel getting angry. He doesn't need to do that. But yeah, now they've popped them into much quicker times. Now they've calmed down a bit and stopped squabbling.
Now Hamilton is now starting to enjoy some increased grip. Track's dried out a little bit more. Tyres have got up to a decent temperature. He's now starting to just forge ahead that little bit more. Behind these two comes Perez and Vettel and Alonso, the top five. Then Rosberg, Hulkenberg, Sainz button up to 9th ahead of Gutierrez. Felipe Massa pressuring Esteban Gutierrez and ahead of his teammate Valtteri Bottas in 12th. Behind them, they've all been lapped. Ted, to you.
Crofty, I've got an explanation from Red Bull as to why that stop was so long for Daniel Ricciardo. It was just a pure miscommunication between the pit wall and the engineers upstairs and the boys, the mechanics downstairs, getting the tyres ready. So just an error, team operational error, unfortunately. Miscommunication between the engineers upstairs and the garage downstairs. It can happen.
And a critical one at that. They lost track position. So Hamilton and Ricciardo incident at turn 11 is under investigation.
Just to throw something else into the mix, Vettel and Perez now starting to lose touch a bit with the front two, where the soft tyres were switching on a lot sooner. Now the ultra softs have got grippy again, and they're starting to lose pace quite a lot, but they should be able to go to the end of this race. I don't think it's a given, Martin, that those on the ultra softs can go race distance here. And obviously, it's just a personal feeling because we have no data to back it up on, because we've never seen them in a race before.
I think for whatever reason, Mercedes can't fire their tyres that well, which is why Hamilton's struggling on the restart. I don't think they've got a lot of choice, have they? And usually for them, normally they can choose whatever tyre they like. They don't have the confidence to put a harder tyre on it.
Nico Rosberg is starting to gain on Fernando Alonso as well. He's taken out a chunk of time on the previous lap. He's now less than 2 seconds behind. Verstappen, Magnussen, Fiat, Raikkonen and Palmer. The 5 drivers out of this race were on lap 41 of 78, or what could be a 2-hour race.
But you're right though, that soft tyre is good. Vettel's just done a new fastest lap, a second quicker than Hamilton. He's only 12 seconds off the lead, Sebastian Vettel, and he's on a tyre we absolutely could be sure will go to the end of the race. So Vettel and Perez sitting pretty.
Yes. At this rate, any one of the top 4 could justifiably think, I've got a chance of winning this race here.
Yeah. And Rosberg's pace not great at the moment. It's very easy to start making assumptions based on single lap times, and it can be wrong. Lewis is possibly taken off now.
I've got a man, Martin, crunching the numbers for me and trying to work it out, and I'm told that if we don't get any more safety cars, we don't get any more stoppages, given the current lap times, which will only get faster, you would imagine, as the fuel burns down, we should get 78 laps in. If he's not right, I'll buy him a new calculator tomorrow.
Good. 78 racing laps would be nice today. I've enjoyed the first 42.
Absolutely flown by. So, 2 seconds the difference between race leader Lewis Hamilton and Daniel Ricciardo in second place. Sergio Perez is now nearly 10 seconds behind in third, and under pressure from Sebastian Vettel, who is lapping significantly quicker, and if he keeps going, he's going to be well in DRS range. Fernando Alonso's then about 14 seconds behind them, but Alonso's got trouble with Nico Rosberg in his rear-view mirrors. Rosberg's got to watch out for Hulkenberg, and Sainz is in DRS range on Hulkenberg in 8th. Button is closing the gap on Carlos Sainz, and Esteban Gutierrez is a long way back, now in 11th place. He's just been overtaken by Felipe Massa, who's up into the points for Williams. Behind Gutierrez comes Bottas and Wehrlein, Grosjean, Nasser and Ericsson. So, Lewis Hamilton on the ultra soft tyres, brand new set of ultra soft tyres, super soft tyres for Ricciardo. They were a used set.
Ricciardo just took 0.8 out of Hamilton in the middle sector of the lap, the longest sector by some margin, but that is why he looks a good deal closer. Game on, this is race, isn't it? We've got a proper race on our hands here.
Can the super soft tyres then go to the end of the race? Was that a much better call? Here's the battle for third and for fourth between Perez and Sebastian Vettel. There's a bone dry line now appearing on the racing line, but I would imagine it's still just a touch damp. If you want to go down the inside at Biribo, you're going to have to do it on the wet stuff.
Yeah. You've got a willing partner there to let you through.
I wouldn't imagine Sergio Perez is going to be that willing partner at all, but he's going to have to just watch himself. Pascal Wehrlein is under investigation now from the stewards for his failure to stay above the minimum time under the virtual safety car. The drivers are given a time that they have to, well, not go quicker than. And you get the feeling if the stewards are onto it, Pascal Wehrlein has gone quicker than that.
Yes, you have to read that carefully. It says he's going too fast. You could easily read that he's going too slow, but it's a minimum time he's got to stay under.
Super soft tyres for Fernando Alonso.
And he's got quite a queue behind him now, Alonso. And so we're getting a two-class race now going on. Top four, Hamilton, Ricciardo, Perez, Vettel. And then Alonso is holding up the second part of the race for whatever reason.
But doing a sterling job for McLaren, celebrating their 50th anniversary of their first ever Grand Prix start, of course, the 1966 Monaco Grand Prix, and currently with both cars in the points.
So a calm down Danny Ricciardo is really starting to come back at Lewis Hamilton.
And this time, when he does want to attack, he's got a much drier surface in which to put the brakes on a little bit later. Only 0.6 of a second between Ricciardo and Hamilton. That same 0.6 of a second or so between Alonso and Rosberg. And the two close battles at the moment. Jenson Button really gaining on Carlos Sainz down in 9th place, as well as the Manor manages to move out of the way.
A size 40 jacket, Crofty, anyway. I just found out I'm doing the podium today. I love planning.
And as you say that, a man appears
with a jacket.
With a jacket for you at the back of our commentary box. Ted, down to you.
Just a thought. They're limited. These tyres are limited by overheating, aren't they, Crofty?
Yes.
So with the cold track conditions, as we've gone from wet to dry, that could help Hamilton and Ricciardo get to the end. They'll have to look after the rears, though. They're the ones that overheat quickest.
You have to look after that jacket as well.
I know, it's Lazenby's very light jacket as well, isn't it? I think I'll go for the blue one.
I wouldn't go for the off-white, ivory, bone, beige combination.
Didn't bring a gin and tonic to go with that one. Marvellous. We'll try them on, see what fits.
You want to be more David Frost than David Niven, I'd suggest, on the podium. But, so you'll be walking away with about 10 laps to go before the end then?
Yes, I hope they let me over the bridge, otherwise it'll be a very quiet podium. But it looks like it could be a very interesting podium today. Hamilton finding some more speed again. Well, how will Ricciardo respond to that?
It might be a podium full of smiles as well.
No further action, Crofty, from that. Sorry, were you about to say that?
I was, but you do it.
Yeah. No, you said. Go on. It's your turn.
To me, to you, to me, to you. No further action warranted. So the stewards decided that, yes, there was space. No, Lewis Hamilton didn't close him off too much. It wasn't overly aggressive. And they can just carry on and give us this battle. Look at that. Hamilton's now just gone fastest lap on the ultra-soft tyres, and Ricciardo's got to go after him again, and he's got to try and get the gap down again. And I hope this goes to the end of the race. They don't have to pit again, because I want to see, does either of these two crack? Can anyone find the magic touch? Can Ricciardo find the magic touch to get past? This could be, and I think will be, an utterly thrilling battle between now and the checkered flag.
I get so much pleasure watching drivers like this around this track, the control, the speed, the skill required. I mean, they've found the groove, they're in it. Tricky conditions. I mean, it's easy enough to hit the barrier here when the track is bone dry. Run half metre wide and you're going to slam the barriers. What a pleasure it is to watch these boys.
Was that just me? Or did Daniel Ricciardo get later on the brakes into that chicane, keep it under control, have brilliant stability under braking, and just take a chunk of time out of Lewis Hamilton's advantage in the space of 150 metres there?
Well spotted, that's exactly what he did, didn't he?
Pascal Wehrlein did fail to stay above the minimum time. He has got a 10-second time penalty, and Carlos Sainz has got a bit falling off his car. Yeah. On board with Ricciardo into Saint-Devote.
Just took 6/10 out of him. So every time Lewis picks the pace up, Ricciardo responds comfortably. But the fumble over the tyres means that he's steering at the Mercedes gearbox and not the other way round.
Now, into Mirabeau we go. Remember last year when Ricciardo got past Kimi Raikkonen in the Ferrari, showed that you can make the move? Kimi Raikkonen didn't like it very much. It was aggressive, but the stewards decided that was all part and parcel of racing. I mean, to me, you have to make a few allowances where it's so difficult to overtake. You've got to encourage the drivers to go for it.
Well, Lewis had a race like a wet Monday morning, didn't he, in qualifying, because he had that fuel issue and he couldn't get 2 runs in, but that did enable him to have a brand new set of ultra softs to put on in the race, because he only did 1 run instead of 2 in Q3. It's just a question of, can he babysit those for the rest of the afternoon?
Pascal Wehrlein's under investigation again. He's getting a lot of investigations today, this time ignoring blue flags. You get 3 waved at you before the stewards say, no, sorry, you do really have to move over. I think the marshal has just gone and retrieved that piece of debris by the chicane. That's what the double waved yellows were all about.
There's a 10th between the top 4 in the last lap time, except Perez has just gone fastest of anybody, 10 seconds behind Ricciardo.
He's keeping Sebastian Vettel at bay.
You can't count him out this afternoon.
No.
On those tyres going that fast.
And they're going to go to the end. The super softs might go to the end. The ultra softs might go to the end, or they might be really hanging on by the end. And that's the thing, because even if for 30 laps the ultra soft is okay and it can get to the checkered flag, what sort of a state is it going to be in by the time they get to the checkered flag?
He's done another fastest first sector, 4/10 quicker than Hamilton in the lead. Perez really dialing these tyres in a treat.
He's a vastly different driver, isn't he, these days, Sergio Perez, to the one who came here as a McLaren driver and bumped and barged with his teammate Jenson Button on that particular day, and not just Jenson Button as well.
He's a man who tends to make the most of an opportunity all of his career, hasn't he? Whether it was Sauber, Force India. If there's a half a chance of a surprise result, Sergio Perez will grab it.
5 podiums in his Formula 1 career so far, and this is 99th career race start, and he's actually looking for his 50th point finish.
8/10 quicker than the leaders on that lap, and dragging Seb Vettel with him now.
2 seconds behind as he crossed the line, and unable to close the gap. Behind these two, Fernando Alonso's still got a real fight on his hand with Nico Rosberg, who's in a significantly faster car but can't find a way to try and get past.
Just a little lock up there from Perez. Again, 5/10.
Just swap position, Philippe, swap position.
For what reason? Give me a reason, why?
He's much quicker at the moment. If Marcus will not pull away, he will gain the position back.
Okay, Felipe, this is from the top. We need to sort of position now, please. Let's do it. Let's get it done. Turn 1.
And that is...
I guess there's something wrong with his radio. Sounds like.
That's Marcus Ericsson not getting his way so far on that one. Craig Gardner and Jorn Becker, their race engineers.
Sadly, they're fighting over last but 1 and last but 2 place.
Sebastian Vettel trying to get a podium for Ferrari and not really getting anywhere near it. There's the 2 Saubers. Have they managed to swap round? Felipe Nasser still ahead of Marcus Ericsson, but they haven't got down to turn 1 yet.
So Lewis is out front trying to babysit those ultra softs. Perez in third going like crazy so he can lean on his tyres for the rest of the afternoon. Daniel Ricciardo stuck in the middle of that. Vettel's getting drawn along nicely with it as well. 11.8 covers the top 4. 5 or 6 laps from now could start getting very interesting. Maybe 10 laps from now. Very interesting indeed.
And we're watching the forecast scrap for 13th place here. And at the back of it, oh, look, down the inside, goes
you're kidding me.
Sauber, and Marcus Ericsson and Felipe Nasser come together after being instructed to move over on the radio. Felipe Nasser hasn't. Marcus Ericsson thought he'd take matters into his own hands, and it ends up in a shower of carbon fibre, and shower, probably the best way to describe it.
Virtual safety car. That was utter stupidity all round. A team can barely afford to go racing, loads of broken bits, fighting over, as I said, the back of the field. Utter nonsense.
What do you do if you're the team principal, Ted Kravitz, when this race finishes and you get both drivers behind closed doors?
Quite surprised Manisha isn't coming down to stand in the way of Felipe Nasser.
Why?
Well, I suppose.
I mean, you could, it was obviously, I mean, it was Ericsson's fault, wasn't it, for the incident, but it was Nasser's fault for not moving over and obeying a team order.
Valtteri Bottas is pitting while that's going on and switching onto the ultra soft tyres towards the end of the race. Well, the thing is, Mike, you could kind of sense this was going to come. Now, we saw Jules Bianchi with a brilliant executed move and bumped and barged his way past the caterer there once before. That was nowhere near a beautifully executed move.
A sackable offence for both of them, except you can't sack either of them because they're both paying for their rides and their sponsorship.
And I wonder if Bottas actually pitted there because he'd gone over the debris and needed to come in because of a puncture. Virtual safety car is going to end it. I suppose that we don't know how long that radio conversation had been going on. Had they gone past turn 1 before? You know, was it a couple of laps old, a lap and a half old or not?
Well, judging by Ericsson's comment of his radio is obviously not working, it's something that had been in play for a while.
And maybe from the response as we go racing once again, maybe the response of his engineer actually gave him a little clue that he wasn't going to be moving over. Now, DRS for Daniel Ricciardo. He's quite close to Hamilton here.
I see a lot of smoke coming out. There's some internal smoke in the car.
Yeah, and smoke coming out of your team principal's ears as well. Not close enough, Ricciardo, to get past into Sandervot. Ericsson rejoins the race.
Ricciardo knows that by the time he comes out of the tunnel down into the swimming pool, his car fires up his tyres better than the Mercedes. Wasn't a particularly long virtual safety car, so Hamilton should still have some temperature and therefore some pressure to go with it.
There's the smoke that you can see at the rear of Felipe Nasser's Sauber as he stops. And back markers getting in the way. Hamilton going off the racing line to get past the manner of Harry Anto. Now is Ricciardo going to have a go? Yes, he is, down and towards the chicane, under braking. Hamilton positions that Mercedes absolutely perfectly there to cover off any threat. Gutierrez keeps out of the way. Ricciardo through to back, still looking for a way past. Grippier tyres switched on a little bit sooner than the Mercedes, but he's struggling to find the gap.
And Hamilton had to go off the racing line in the tunnel, didn't he, for the back markers?
Oh, big lock-up.
I'm back.
He's managed to keep it under control. But now into Sandervot we go. He's not quite as close this time around. He might run out of straight.
Don't want to be damaging those front tyres like that. There is definitely an element of frustration in that cockpit, isn't it? Off the Red Bull.
I just think, you know, he's sat there, Martin, waiting for the tyres, and miscommunication, yes, but for the second race running, if he doesn't win this race, Ricciardo will feel that he's had the maximum points taken away from him. So you can understand if there is any frustration.
Yeah, because Mercedes played a smart hand on the tactics, and then Red Bull didn't have any tyres ready.
Max Verstappen out of this race, along with Kevin Magnussen, Danny Kvyat, Kimi Raikkonen and Jolyon Palmer. Felipe Nasser, I think, is still in the pit, so he might join that and make it 6 drivers out of the race. The virtual safety car after it Now Sergio Perez, 8.5 seconds behind Ricciardo in third. Sebastian Vettel, nearly 4 seconds behind Perez. Fernando Alonso, half a minute down the road, under pressure from Rosberg and Hulkenberg and Sainz, and then Jenson Button running in ninth ahead of Felipe Massa. The incident involving Marcus Ericsson and Felipe Massa, as you can see, under investigation. I just wonder with that one, because the engineer, Martin, said, yeah, sounds like it, or, yeah, because when Marcus said, oh, he's obviously not, his radio's not working, did Ericsson think that NASA hadn't heard the instruction to move over, and did he feel that he had to take matters into his own hands? I wonder if that is the mitigating factor.
He'll look all afternoon, all evening and all day tomorrow to justify that move against his teammate when they were fighting over, what was it, 15th and 16th.
Yeah.
But yeah, clearly anger. But it comes back to the point that both of them are representing sponsors that are paying a huge amount of money for them to go racing, and they're frustrated the team are not going forward in any way forwards. And as I said, there is no justification for that utter stupidity.
To the swimming pool we go once again on lap 54 of this Monaco Grand Prix. Daniel Ricciardo is now out of DRS range in his bid to try and get past Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton leads this race. There's his teammate Nico Rosberg, getting closer to Fernando Alonso, but still can't find a way past. Ted.
The line from Mercedes is that his brakes are now okay, and that he is just frustrated, as we can see, stuck behind the McLaren. But Alonso made this work because he had the slightly better tyre strategy. Jenson was a little too soon onto the dry tyres, I feel. Just down at Sauber, it looks like they're going to retire Marcus Ericsson. I don't actually know if there's anything wrong with the car.
He's coming in.
This might just be punishment.
Yeah, he's coming in now.
Yeah.
If you can get a view into the Sauber garage,
you might consider, Crofty, they've got bigger fish to fry, money-wise, than sorting out the drivers, but they will have to do it.
They did end up, that car flew quite a long way through the air, didn't it? There's the driver's points, I guess, if the race finished now, on the right-hand side there.
Yeah, so that gap of 43 points that he has over Kimi Räikkönen will go down to 26 points between himself and his teammate Lewis Hamilton. I'm just looking here at Hamilton's lap time and Rosberg's, and I wonder, it's probably a bit too far back, but if he keeps getting held up behind Fernando Alonso, I wonder if there's a potential of the Mercedes to get lapped by his teammate.
Yeah, just thinking the same thing as you said it. But 22 laps to go. They're a long way. They're half a lap adrift, but that's about a third of a lap. Yeah, at this rate, the leaders will be steaming up behind this lot.
Yeah. Paul de Resta in my ears, just saying, Crofty, I'm looking at the numbers here, and it could well happen. He sits on his lofty perch, watching on the Sky Pad, and he'll be giving plenty of analysis and plenty of things to analyse when we get to the checkered flag.
So you can see Hamilton out front's got really good pace, but just doesn't want to take that life out of the tyres, whereas Perez and Vettel don't care in third and fourth place. They've got the much more durable tyre on. So Hamilton suddenly pops in at 118, he's got it there, but then he has to back out of it a bit.
All the back markers just not helping Daniel Ricciardo. Every single lap, though, still fully committed through that part.
Tricky trying to get up the inside of a back marker in Raskas. And he's not going to get out of the way either. No. Blue flags waving.
Well, that's Wehrlein, who's already under investigation for ignoring blue flags. This time he does find a way to get out of the way. Marcus Ericsson climbs up to the stairs to go and say hello, and probably sorry.
The headmaster will be sitting up there. He needs to come up with some pretty serious reason for that one. Excellent. Again, Hamilton then with a very good first sector, when he needs it, when he's in clear air. And at the moment, they've got a couple of back markers between them and Perez. Ricciardo. As Nigel Mansell knows all too well, track position and speed are not relevant here, is it? Track position wins out pretty much every time. It's Ricciardo's car snaking away. He's got a rip-off on his visor, helmet visor, sort of half hanging on there, was for a little while, that he tried to get rid of. They were supposed to tuck those in from this race in a glove box inside the car, and that got abandoned through this weekend. That concept.
They're allowed to throw them away now, but not as much as they have been doing. I think wasn't the feeling that they could be a fire risk if they were left in the cockpit. I think that was the FIA's thinking on that one. Either way, you go through a lot of trouble to make sure your rip-off doesn't get in your own airbox or your own brake duct, but then you just leave it into the air for the car behind, and front wing, rear wing, any cooling duct, and your race can be over. Watching here, the Haas of Romain Grosjean, the manner of Esteban Gutierrez. Oh, and that's why they were so close together. Gutierrez going straight on there.
It's like a braking problem to me. It's a slightly bizarre incident, that one.
They've been struggling a bit with stability under braking all weekend long. The Haas team, that's why Gutierrez has lost a lot of time behind Felipe Massa, and why Rio Haryanto was the car right next to him. Both have been lapped now in this race, in the bright sunshine, with 30 laps to go. And on the current tyre usage, Lewis Hamilton 27, Daniel Ricciardo 30. 30 laps of the Super Soft, 27 of the Ultra Soft. Obviously, the virtual safety car will have helped preserve a bit more life in the tyres. The 2 or 3 that we've had, that will play into Lewis Hamilton's hands a little bit.
Good point. Ricciardo's just had 4/10 out of him up in the first sector. It's yo-yoing around, isn't it, on the absolute pace. Better visibility than you get in the cockpit, that camera, because it's above the T-bar above the driver's head that is yellow on one car and non-coloured carbon, if you like, on the other car. So you've got a lot better view from up there than you do behind the steering wheel.
Right, has Ricciardo got a bit closer here? And it looks to me that he has. Had a better first sector.
Look what took out of him, when we talked about the first sector, a little bit slow in the second sector.
And locks up again, going into Rascasse, and all the good work slightly undone by that little lock-up. Sebastian Vettel now finds himself behind Pascal Wehrlein, who's spent all day really with the blue flags being waved at him, and behind comes Romain Grosjean in the Haas. Grosjean and Wehrlein battling for places, and Vettel just trying to lap them and get past.
10 seconds covers the top. Vettel with that traffic, it's gone up to 14 seconds.
Here's Nico Rosberg on Fernando Alonso into the chicane. Did he hang on? Not quite. And he's given that place back right there, and then obviously has to slam the door on Nico Hülkenberg as quickly as he possibly could.
Always better to do that. If you're going to have to do that, do it straight away before it compounds your problems.
We saw that lock up there from Daniel Ricciardo. Oh, a lock up there from Nico Rosberg, and Hülkenberg getting a little bit interested. Ultra soft tyre on Rosberg's Mercedes. Is he now starting to struggle a bit with tyre grip? Is Ricciardo? I wonder if Ricciardo's got a slight flat spot on his tyres as well.
I'd imagine he's got a horrible flat spot after 2 big lockups like that. But yes, as the rubber gets worn, starts to cool down, so you've got double trouble. And that means then not only do you not have enough front grip in corners like this, they're easier to lock under braking. You can change the brake bias and put more of the energy rearwards.
Jensen, there's a small shower on the radar. If it reaches the circuit, that would be with about 8 laps to go.
Well, Tom Stallard, Jensen Button's race engineer, now putting a little bit more jeopardy into the end of this race. A little bit more intrigue and mystery, and do we want to see a bit of rain and a few showers between now and the end of the race?
Yeah.
We'll take it all. And you'll get wet when you go back to the grid of the podium again.
Yeah, got wet on the grid. I just got to be dried out in time.
You'll definitely need the dark jacket then. Ted, down to you as we ride on board with the fastest man of the race at the moment, Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah, just quickly, I can see the weather that the McLaren engineer is talking about. It's coming in from the sort of Italian side of Monaco, that direction. But it looks like probably get to the end of the race before it happens. So are you going with the dark jacket, Martin? I think that's probably a safer bet.
It's a better jacket all round.
Will flashes in the shirt. Apologies in advance.
It's just a touch. It's a little less Richie Benno than the other jacket.
If Vettel could just find some space and some clear air and get out of the back markers, he's got maybe the best pace on the track at the moment. And he's now in that situation, actually. The next person they're going to catch is Massa, who's going through Casino Square now. So those pair, Perez and Vettel, can get on with it now and see if they can get that gap under 10 seconds between the top four.
Sebastian Vettel, the only Ferrari left in this race. Kimi Raikkonen out earlier when he went into the barriers on the outside of the Lowe's hairpin. And then, as he struggled with his steering, forced Romain Grosjean wide, and Felipe Massa to hit him as well, and Grosjean complaining about the incident, what Kimi did to him. Well, Raikkonen has been summoned to the stewards for violating Article 12.1.1 of the FIA Sporting Code, not the sporting regulations, and that's failure to follow the FIA Code of Driving Conduct on circuits. Now, that's either because he tried to limp home into the pits with his front wing underneath him, or what he did to Romain Grosjean. I'm
pretty sure, David, that will be for heading into the tunnel with a heavily wounded car.
Because he could have, there were places to stop beforehand.
Yeah. Look at that. That's what they call skimming the barrier, isn't it? Lovely shot.
Very nice.
He hasn't got any more rip-offs. Has he got one more left on there? Not sure he has. His visor looking a bit messy there. And it's an 18 flat for Vettel. So 11.6 seconds now. And 15 laps to go. 16 with this one.
Perez under pressure for that third place. Hamilton under pressure for first place. But he's still keeping Daniel Ricciardo at arm's length where he wants him. Hamilton, who's won in Monaco before, from third on the grid, where he started this afternoon in the wet of 2008. Well, in the wet of 2016, he's on his way to what will be a very timely victory in terms of his championship defence, his season as a whole, and his overall demeanour.
Alonso's picking up his pace as well. So they're currently a minute behind the leaders on a minute 18 lap. So they could well get up there. And then Alonso, Rosberg, Hülkenberg, Sainz and Button will have to pull over for the leaders.
And then it starts to get very messy in the scrap for their particular places.
They'll all be trying to take some advantage out of that somewhere along the line, the whole lot of them.
It's a brilliant shot where you see from distance the cars blasting their way up towards Massenet. And as they did so, Ricciardo was a second behind Lewis Hamilton. As you can see now, Hamilton just got a tenth of a second quicker through that first sector.
Hamilton's definitely just eking his tyres out, balancing up necessary speed versus babysitting the tyres.
Hamilton, who was not enjoyed the lead of a Formula One race an awful lot before today. It only led one lap out of 289 that was raced before we came to Monaco. And he's coping very nicely with the lead at the moment. And the two of them, Hamilton and Ricciardo, starting to pull away now from Sergio Perez in third place. And Perez, who was closing at a rate of knots at one stage, has now got to think about defence and how he defends against Sebastian Vettel. 5 podiums in the last 9 races for Sebastian Vettel. None of them have ever been consecutive podiums, though. Given that he finished third in Spain, is that a kind of worrying omen if you're a Ferrari fan and a Sebastian Vettel fan, I wonder?
Hamilton just added a second to his lead. Ricciardo's front tyres must be a bit second-hand, I'd imagine, those two big lockups. And following relatively closely. Come back.
That is going to cost Sebastian Vettel dear. Just like on the last lap in Australia, where he went wide as he was challenging and he was pushing there to try and make up a place at the end of the race. Was he just pushing Martin just a bit too hard on that occasion?
It's a very normal approach. The inside left, front left locks up because you've got a bit of roll moment in there because he's starting to turn the car left into Massenet that leads into Casino Square. So you just unload that inside front tyre. Then he got a snap of oversteer he had to turn into. And the next thing is the barriers were waiting for him.
Sergio Perez will love the fact that that's happened to Sebastian Vettel there, and he'll also love the fact that Daniel Ricciardo seems to be struggling a little bit because he's just got a second quicker on the last lap than the man in second place.
4 tenths again on the next lap as well, 2.5 seconds to the gap. Is that the moment? Is that the moment that broke the spirit and the speed of the Red Bull for Hamilton?
Well, Hamilton now has a 2.5 second advantage over Daniel Ricciardo. That's as big an advantage as he's had pretty much since he inherited the lead of this race. Here's the battle for 5th place once again. Alonso ahead of Rosberg, ahead of Hülkenberg. Who can keep their coolest? Tyres starting to grain and lose grip, and maybe the threat of rain coming as well. We've already seen Rosberg have one go at Fernando Alonso, but he couldn't quite hold it. He had to give the place back again.
Sainz on the back of this pack is 66 seconds behind on a 78-second lap. I just think that the lead is getting mixed up in this lot. Could be the final flurry in this race. Maybe they won't quite make it. Let's see.
Well, it's the length of the main straight between Hamilton leading and Jenson Button in 9th place. We're on board with Nico Hülkenberg going through Casino Square in his 100th Grand Prix and having a much better race this afternoon after his back-to-back retirements. Well, Esteban Gutierrez, one of the two drivers to have back-to-back retirements. Enjoying himself at the moment, but a top 6 finish would be many more times pleasing.
Sainz to be climbing all over the back of this Force India anytime soon. Ricciardo finds a new fastest first sector of the entire Grand Prix from somewhere.
But maybe there isn't too much wrong with his tyres. Maybe there is. It's been a thrilling race. It really has. And for the second race running, Martin, we've got a situation where you're just not quite sure, as we reach the closing stages, who's going to take this, what's going to be the full podium positions, and how the rest of the points are going to sort themselves out as well. And this time it's not been caused by the two Mercedes taking themselves out. So 10, Lewis Hamilton crosses the line to complete lap 67. Start lap 68, his advantage over Daniel Ricciardo, 1.5 seconds. Ricciardo has pulled half a second on him on that last lap.
Ooh, I just asked the man from Pirelli down here, Mario Isola, who he thinks he's going to win and whether he thinks Hamilton's tyres can hold on. He says, I've got no idea. I didn't expect them to get this fast. So Hamilton will be helped that there is live tyre temperature information, isn't there, that he can access. Of course, that's not one of the things the teams can radio and tell him about anymore, can they? Crofty.
That's
so,
right.
but he can access that. He can see how hot his rear tyres are getting, and he's doing a brilliant job managing that. He just wants it, doesn't he? He wants it today. Oh, what was that?
Looked like flying down some sort of a cover, flying off one of the balconies. Yeah. Looked like a cover for a barbecue.
Anyway, he just, after what happened last year, Crofty, he just wants it more than anything. He sent Hamilton, doesn't he?
It's a race that means a huge amount to him.
Debris on the main straight, be careful, stay on the right.
the virtual safety car has been deployed. I would imagine that whatever it is that has just flown onto the start-finish straight. We can't see sadly from our commentary box.
So at certain points of the track, you've got to keep above a certain time, earliest time of arrival at the next point. And that's why they end up all doing the same lap times now. So that they should, other than how you go into the zone, it's ending already.
Yeah, so I think it's for that cover that flew off the balcony.
Yeah.
Now, is this going to be helpful to Daniel Ricciardo? Have they been going slow enough, Martin, so that Hamilton's tyres have cooled down, given the trouble he's had switching the tyres on before? Is that going to give Ricciardo a half a chance here, or is it just not long enough?
He's not close enough on this occasion. There's no back markers involved, and it was a very short VSC, wasn't it? So I don't think it'll bother. It's not helping Lewis, but I don't think it'll bother him anything like as much as earlier on.
So managed in that first section on that lap to be half a second quicker than Daniel Ricciardo as well. Maybe just anticipated the green light a little bit sooner. Ricciardo was going just that little bit slower. And somehow Sergio Perez has managed to back off and lose about 4 seconds behind the virtual safety car.
It's a bit luck of the draw where you catch it, isn't it? As to whether you're on a fast part of the track or a slow part of the track, as to what you really lose. What goes around comes around, but you're right, it's cost Perez and Vettel badly.
The key for Perez is he's kept pretty much the same gap between himself and Sebastian Vettel behind him. No real threat to Sebastian Vettel because Fernando Alonso's nearly a minute down after that. So 8 laps to go. According to McLaren, there might be a small shower coming the way of this Monaco Grand Prix. Can't see it just yet. The track still looks pretty dry. The top 3 now separated by 11 seconds. Those soft tyres, Martin, they get working so much quicker than the super soft or the ultra soft. Sergio Perez had just gone nearly 4 seconds faster on that last lap. I mean, trouble for him, he's 9 seconds adrift of Ricciardo.
You have to factor in the virtual safety car on that cross, is where they were when it restarted, as it were. That's it. We'll see. I think you have to wait. A good spot, but you have to wait until the first complete lap without the VSC.
Yeah, I mentioned it happened before, and it happened before as well.
They do seem to fire up nicely. There's no doubt about it.
It's been a decision to put Sergio Perez on the soft compound tyre. Went on lap 30, and new Force India, they get to the end of the race, and they put them in with a chance of a real morale-boosting podium and a best-ever finish.
Some drops of rain in the buzzer.
Best ever finish here in Monaco. There's that rain then. Just a few drops at the moment. And I wonder if it's going to...
I remember so many races here where you think you're nearly to the end and it just starts spitting with rain on your right there. It's amazing.
Just wonder, can it develop into something a little bit more, just for one final twist, one final happening and moment in this race. Lewis Hamilton has been on the ultra soft tyre since lap 31. Only made 1 pit stop in this race. Was on the wet weather tyres, stayed out until it was dry enough to go to slicks, made up the time that he'd lost, stuck behind his teammate earlier in the race when Rosberg was having brake problems. Not only made up the gap, but then got ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, who suffered disappointment for the second race running, in that when he came into the pits for his slick tyres, they weren't quite ready for him, and he had to stay in the garage for another 6-7 seconds longer than he would have wanted. And those 6 or 7 seconds definitely cost him the lead of the race, as Hamilton made his way past Sander Vogt. Ricciardo slotted in behind him. Hamilton has just set the fastest lap of this race, a 1:17.9. His advantage goes up now to 2 seconds over Ricciardo. Perez under 10 seconds the gap as Ricciardo locks up once again going into mass lane. That causes him just to back out and lose more speed.
Yeah, he's struggling with those front tyres. Of course, that's where his teammate speared off into the barrier. An identical incident, just a little bit faster for the teenager. Ricciardo's car control has been extraordinary. Remember when he was in the tunnel trying to hustle Hamilton on the restart? I mean, the thing is stepping out left, right and centre, and he's got his hand out of the cockpit gesticulating at the same time.
Like to stick his hand out of the cockpit maybe and try and urge more pace out of that Red Bull at the moment. Not quite happening for him.
Extraordinary thing is, up until this race, Lewis Hamilton had led 1 lap so far this season.
Yeah.
That sort of sums up what a miserable year he's had.
Well, for once, the start wasn't a problem. For once, he hasn't been hit by mechanical issues and troubles as well, and he's not really had to go fighting his way through the pack. The only thing that held him up was his teammate, and talking of teammates, there's his former teammate that he's just lapped, Jenson Button. Currently running in 9th place, but McLaren on their way to a double points finish and a best results of the season for Fernando Alonso, 5th, and with Nico Rosberg now 2 seconds behind him. Ted, down to you.
The Hulkenberg-Sainz fight continues for 7th and 8th. That's been quite interesting. I'll let you know all about it later on in the show in the notebook, but I just think that a few spots of air, it is noticeably cooler in the pit lane now, Crofty. It'll just help Hamilton's tyres. You can just see signs of the rear tyres starting to go off, little traces of degradation on there. But Hamilton, funnily enough, he's trying to do a Verstappen, isn't he? He's trying to do a Verstappen, what Verstappen did a couple of weeks ago, Red Bull. He's trying to do a Verstappen on Ricciardo. And how Red Bull will rue, I mean, I'll ask the questions, how they'll rue that bit of miscommunication. That cost them the Grand Prix then. Monaco as well.
Well, they certainly wouldn't want to be throwing away a win. Not in Monaco. And not given as well that it's wins that don't come necessarily as easily to Red Bull in 2016 as they did in 2013, 2012, 11 and 10 when Sebastian Vettel was winning world championships. It could have been back-to-back victories as well to help them in their fight with Ferrari.
Ricciardo's lost touch with Hamilton.
Yep. 3.5 seconds, the gap now. The key is that he doesn't, with 5 laps remaining, back himself into the path of Sergio Perez. 87th race of Lewis Hamilton's career that he's led, passing Ayrton Senna on the all-time list for races led today. He goes 2nd, a long way behind Michael Schumacher's 142. He's got less than 5 laps to go. Sebastian Vettel all over the back of Sergio Perez, as you can see here. Will it be Ferrari or Force India making up the bottom step of the podium? He still can't count out Sebastian Vettel. The braking closing in on the Force India once more. Vettel hasn't led a lap here since 2012. One here at the Once course. Would dearly love to be on the podium once again. Now 3.8 seconds, the difference between Hamilton and Ricciardo. I think you can say Ricciardo's issues with his tyres have cost him the chance to get at the race leader. It's maintaining that advantage. It's 7.5 seconds to Sergio Perez, and he's got to concern himself with. Perez under all sorts of pressure from Sebastian Vettel behind him, Alonso and Rosberg and Hulkenberg and Sainz.
Vettel in the DRS zone down the pit straight as well.
Just not quite long enough, that DRS zone. There's not much you can do about it because you're not going to knock down any multi-million-pound apartments here to make a longer straight.
So what are this lot going to do when the leaders, if and when the leaders catch them on the last lap?
Well, they're going to have to move out of the way.
Yeah.
And then hope that there's a change of position possibly. Verstappen getting ready to go to the podium to say well done to his teammate. Been a very tough Monaco Grand Prix weekend for him. He'll learn, Martin, a huge amount. And he'll take a huge amount from this.
Lewis has actually got enough time in hand now He might just be able to afford to back out and not get in the squabble with that lot unless they're really prepared to jump out of his way with the blue flags. They're matching each other first sector 20.8, pace in the 18s. Pole position, of course, in the 13s. It tells you there's still not a huge amount of grip out there. As they crest out of the tunnel, they're already on the brakes.
We are going to go to 78 laps, you would imagine. So well done to our producer who worked that out halfway through the race. The party boats won't stop partying until late into the night. And for Lewis Hamilton or Daniel Ricciardo, the prize is still there to party the loudest, the noisiest and the most celebratory of all, but it looks like it's going Hamilton's way, and he will reduce the gap between himself and his teammate to 26 points, with Ricciardo moving into third place in the championship ahead of Kimi Raikkonen, who's been to see the stewards or summoned to see the stewards and hasn't scored today, still ahead of his teammate.
It's starting to rain. Get ready.
Get ready.
There might be a sting in the tail here, yeah.
And it does look like there's a few spots of rain on the camera lenses, but surely, Martin, even if it starts to chuck it down, can you really come into the pits?
No, you have to chip your toe around unless it literally starts raining heavily.
And it is starting to rain that little bit heavily. Hamilton seeks the solace of the tunnel. But for a few hundred yards, it isn't now raining. But as he comes out once again past the yacht club and down towards the party boats and onwards to back, he'll feel the rain on his visor. He'll see the spots as well.
Still good grip though. Still plenty of grip. We're looking at this.
What does this do, Martin, to Lewis Hamilton's demeanour, to his season? Does this reignite his season?
Well, all of a sudden he's just about within one win, isn't he, of the World Championship lead again. So Sainz will be the first to have to move out of the way. I think the rest are just about going to get away with it. Hulkenberg is next up.
Final lap then for Lewis Hamilton, who said at the start of this week, what will be, will be. I'm just trying to win races. I'm 43 points behind, but I'll take what's coming.
Ricciardo driving it to the finish now in these tricky conditions.
Yep, he's got a big enough buffer over Sergio Perez, and he's a long way back now from Lewis Hamilton.
And that means Hamilton does not need to get involved in that scrap ahead of him, where he would, unless he fancies lapping his teammate. He just doesn't need to get involved.
And of course, he benefited from his teammate moving to one side to allow him past, but if Rosberg was having issues with his brakes, then that was the right call for the team to make there. And as he makes his way towards Nico Hulkenberg fighting against Nico Rosberg, Lewis Hamilton has now but one sector to go before he can taste victory once again. He started third, of course, in 2008 in Monaco in conditions that were wet and then dry. He started third on the grid here in Monaco today, and it's Lewis Hamilton who wins for the first time in 2016 and wins in Monaco for the second time. Hamilton wins the Monaco Grand Prix, and that will be a very happy Lewis Hamilton on the podium this afternoon. Daniel Ricciardo comes home for his first podium in 2016. Sergio Perez puts Force India on the podium for the first time here in Monte Carlo, ahead of Sebastian Vettel, who just misses out for Ferrari, and Fernando Alonso a distance back. And after looking rather forlorn on the podium before and after qualifying yesterday, will Lewis Hamilton see this as the afternoon that his championship challenge